Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing some Shaddoll Invoked test hands. I'm really excited for this because this deck is actually like one of my favorite variants of Shaddolls and probably the most powerful version of Shaddolls besides Shaddoll Dinosaurs, which is a really cool deck. But Shaddolls are probably my favorite engine of any kind of engine now, and probably really cool is that you can throw in Invoked in this deck because it just makes it so it's like an extreme fusion deck, which is awesome. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you can become part of the notification squad. And definitely check out that Patreon down in the description below because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card sent to you in the mail, getting a deck profile of your choice every single month that you are a patron, or getting your name in the description of every single video. So, without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So, again, like normal, I do recommend that you guys do pile shuffle your deck every single time, and I have some really cool combos for you guys for this deck. It's a really fun deck to play around with, and it has some awesome combos for OTKs and control, which is awesome, and it swarms as well. This deck does everything, which is really cool. And it just summons out some awesome monsters like Makaba and your copies of El Shaddoll Construct, which is really neat. And yes, it is a 41 card deck. So if you guys do want to check out the deck profile for this deck, it will be down in the description below. So we do have some awesome deck profiles, so you can hear how the deck plays in that video, and then come back here and actually watch the test hand out too. So let's go ahead and do our first draw test hand. We're going to do like normal, where we actually draw out a test hand and then show you guys what we can get. So we're going to get a Hat Trigger. Hat Trigger is really good for link plays. Super Polymer Chase and just stop anything that our opponent does. Copy of Call by the Grave. Nibiru, awesome. And a copy of Damage Juggler. So you might be thinking, where's the Shaddolls? Where's the Invoked? I don't know. They're not here right now. But the Nibiru is fine because you can drop the Nibiru against your opponent. And we have the copy of Hat Trigger and a copy of Perform Age Damage Juggler. So we have some really good plays. Now we draw for going second because this deck usually goes second. We have the Nibiru. The Invocation comes in. So, not too great of a hand, but at the same time, we do have link plays that we can go into, like our copies of Cross Sheep or our copies of Alistair, which you have to use two monsters with different types and different attributes, so that's something to keep in mind, which these are two spellcasters, you can't really do that. And you don't really play any XYZ monsters in the deck, so you might be thinking, oh crap, we don't have anything, but you got the Super Poly. Which, if you do draw into a Shaddoll the next turn, you'd be fine. That's not too great of a hand. Let's go ahead and shuffle it back up and see what we can get for the next one. That's like about as bricky as it could get. And with playing 12 fusion spells in here, you'd imagine you get one of the really good ones. I mean, don't get me wrong, Super Poly is great and all, but you kind of need to get to Shaddoll Fusion or Invocation. So, with Alistair. So let's go ahead and see what we can get for the next draw hand and see what we can do. So we got Shaddoll Fusion. There you go. That's better. Call by the Grave, copy of Ash Blossom, Magical Meltdown, that's really good because that's going to get us an Alistair and a Shaddoll Fusion. So this is really good because we have two negates and we have a setup for a Magical Meltdown and we have an extra fusion. So you really have two fusion plays in this entire hand and two negates, which is really good. And then once you get out the copy of Makaba with this hand, with just these two monsters, you're going to get Makaba and a copy of Construct if you're going second. If you go second, you get a Super Poly, so that's insane. Because they can't stop, they already can't stop you because it basically makes your fusion spell speed spell 4s. This card's going to just go off with this, and then your Super Poly is going to clean up the board by fusion summoning away your Construct with another monster. So you have a lot of plays to go with that hand. That's really insane. It's not a big deal that we didn't draw any monsters because we're just going to fusion summon from deck. That's totally fine. We don't need monsters in our hand for that. Let's go ahead and do another draw test hand, and then we'll pile shuffle one more time just to show you guys, and then we will go ahead and do out some actual playtest hands. So we're going to draw. We're going to need Ash Blossom. That's pretty good. Super Poly, Call by the Grave, Shaddoll Beast, and a copy of our Hat Triggers. This is not terrible, again, because you can just discard the copy of Ash going second. We're going to draw into an El Shaddoll Fusion. So we have some plays going on here, quite a few. We have the Super Poly, we have the Hat Trigger, we have the copy of Ash, we have two negates, essentially, and we have a board break if we need to. So we have plenty of plays going in that hand. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle this deck out one more time and see what we can actually get a hold of to play out a test hand for you guys. Because as long as we draw like an Alistair, Shaddoll Fusion, Magical Meltdown, anything like that, we're totally fine. Or if you draw a Shaddoll Fusion, like, you're fine. If you draw a Shaddoll monster and a Super Poly, you're totally fine. I mean, the deck is really consistent and really good. I mean, granted, we did get, like, one not-so-great hand, but, I mean, that happens with any deck. Even with like Eldritch and Emancipator, it happens where you just don't get the greatest hand. So let's go ahead and play out a hand and see what we're going to get. So, Aerial right off the bat, not bad. Shaddoll Fusion, we're fine now. Copy of Windy, Windy's really good. Invocation, if we get an Alistair, we're set. And a Super Polymerization. So if we were going second, just showing you guys, we're going to get a Shaddoll Beast. Not going to make a super big difference, but hey, whatever. That felt really cool, just flipping it and catching it right there. Like, when you play Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as I do, you get certain little card tricks like that. So, we're going to go ahead and immediately drop the copy of Shaddoll Fusion, because, well, if you go second, you're going to need that. So go ahead and drop the Shaddoll Fusion, because you're going second in this deck. You're always going to go second in this deck. And you're going to send from your deck to the graveyard a copy of Trick Clown and a copy of Windy. I would always send these two to the graveyard, because you're going to get a special summon off the Windy, and you're going to get the Trick Clown's effect off as well. So send these two to graveyard, and they're going to be Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. And then Construct is going to hit the board, which is going to be Chainlink 3. So, Chainlink 3, I'm going to resolve. I'm going to send from my deck to the graveyard. This is the really cool combo of the deck. Send your copy of the Shaddoll Carnation to the graveyard. Chainlink 2, Windy. Special summon out a copy of a monster, which you could special summon out your copy. If you could, you would have summoned out Aerial, but I'm just going to set the Aerial, so it's not that big of a deal. So we're just going to special summon out a copy of Falco. Falco is a card that I play that not everybody plays. I like Falco because it has a lot of recovery and synergy in the deck. So we special summon that guy out, and so now you can do something really nifty. We're going to go ahead and set the copy of Aerial, or actually, let's do it this way. Let's normal summon out the copy of Windy, and then link summon these two girls together and summon out our copy of Alistair, because they're two different monsters with two different attributes. And this card's treated as Alistair the Invoker, and if the monster fusion summon while you control this card, you can discard a card and you do add an invocation or book of the... let's special summon Cross Sheep. I'd just go for Cross Sheep. It'd probably be a little easier anyways. Once you link this away, you're going to use the effect of your Shaddoll Construct, and Construct effect is going to trigger to be able to send another, or be able to add from deck or from graveyard to hand another copy of your Shaddoll Fusion, which is going to be super helpful just to be able to get it back. And you've got the Cross Sheep on your side of the field. So now you could do something as simple as activate the copy of Invocation, and the Aerial and the copy of your Beast are going to go to the graveyard, which is two separate Shaddoll monsters, which you're going to summon a Pokelone. And then once you do, the effect of your Cross Sheep is going to activate, special summoning a monster back face down, which is going to be the Aerial. At this point, you have a really cool play. So you activated the copy of the Invocation to Fusion Summon, which is going to be really, really important. You do also get to draw a card, so we're going to cut the deck. We have already normal summoned, so we're going to go ahead and draw Call by the Grave. That would have been nice earlier, but hey, it's still good because we have the Shaddoll Fusion to back us up in case our opponent does draw a card. So, now really cool play. You're going to use the copy of the Shaddoll Incarnation, banish it, and banish your copy of Shaddoll Construct to flip summon your copy of the Shaddoll Aerial, and then special summon back in face-up defense your copy of El Shaddoll Construct. So at this point, I'm going to start link summoning because I want to summon a really, really cool monster, which is Access Code Talker. So now we've used a couple of different plays here. So we flip summon this monster so you can actually go into... one normal summon monster. We're going to go ahead and go into our copy of Unicorn. In case we need to bounce something on our opponent's side of the field, you can go with the copy of a Pokelone and send that one, send your Aerial, and send your copy of Cross Sheep to the graveyard. Or actually, I'd probably send Construct. I'd probably send Construct, special summon the copy of Unicorn. Unicorn's effect is going to trigger discarding a card from our hand, which is going to be the copy of Super Polymerization to bounce a card on our opponent's side of the field. Now you've got these two monsters on the field. Construct went to the graveyard, so she's going to let you, or not Construct and a Pokelone went to the graveyard, which are both going to trigger, and the copy of Construct is going to trigger, letting you add from your graveyard a Shaddoll spell or trap, but unfortunately, we don't have one, so we can't use that effect, which is fine. That's totally fine. You're just trying to get her back on the field for more materials. So now you've bounced something on your opponent's side of the field, and you've also got a setup where you can summon Access Code Talker to pop stuff on your opponent's side of the field as well. So now we have a copy of we had the copy of Cross Sheep as well, or the copy of a Pokelone that you can trigger as well. So we're going to add from our deck to our hand another Shaddoll monster, which we've already sent Beast to draw a card. So you're going to special summon out something, or add something from deck to hand to thin the deck just a little bit, like a copy of Squamata. Squamata's effect is going to, or the Pokelone's effect is going to trigger because when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Shaddoll card from your deck to your hand and then discard a card. So we're going to discard the copy of our Squamata, and then Squamata's effect is going to trigger, sending another copy of a Shaddoll monster from our deck to the graveyard, which can be something as simple as another copy of Hedgehog, which if you send Hedgehog to the graveyard, you get to add a Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand, which then you can search out a copy of Beast to be able to go into more plays the next turn. It just gets you a little bit thinner of a deck to be able to summon more monsters. So now you can link these two together and go for Access Code Talker. So then the Access Code Talker targets this, comes out at 5,300, and it can pop twice on your opponent's side of the field, which is pretty good. And then you have the Falco that when it's flip summoned, you get to special summon back your construct to be able to go off. That's a good setup, and you have this as well, and your opponent can't can't stop these because this is speed spell 4. So you have 2 pops, 5,700, and then if this gets flip face up on your next turn, construct attacks. This deck is much more about the grind game than a lot of people realize, and it's not about the crazy board that it can just establish. It's more about the grind game and managing your resources, because I have a Shaddoll Fusion in hand, I have the Access Code Talker, the 5,300, that you're going to have to use resources and burn through some resources to get through. I have the Falco set, so I can just get my construct back. And I have the copy of Call by the Grave to ensure that I'm going to get out my copy of Shaddoll Fusion. So I have a complete setup to go off against my opponent on the following turn. And that's what it's about. It's not about winning the first turn, to me, with this deck. It's more about a grind and setting up. And if they give me an opening, I'm going to take it. But if I don't, I'm going to win turn 4 or turn 3 or turn 4, which is really cool. If I get pushed to go first, it's going to be a Shaddoll, Winda, and a Caliga if I can set that up. If I can't, I'm just going to go off and do what I need to do with setting up for a board for the following turn. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a Call by the Grave. That's not too bad. Trick Clown, that's not great. Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave. Magical Meltdown. Okay, that's weird. Let's say we're going second. So Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion, that's weird. We need a pile shuffle. We're going to go ahead and activate that Magical Meltdown. Magical Meltdown is going to let us add our copy of Alistair. So let's go ahead and just say our opponent ashes us. We're going to have a good variety to pick from. Which one do you guys think we should activate? I'm going to activate the middle one. And I'm going to get that copy of Alistair. So normal summon the Alistair. And let's say our opponent tries to ash us or do something again. We have another Call by the Grave. I'm getting my effects off. That's totally fine. Invocation, our opponent is going to discard a hand trap to stop this. You can invoke them and then send this to the graveyard. Or, excuse me, don't do that. We're going to do our quick little combo that I'm going to show you guys. Don't preemptively use your opponent's monsters. Do this. Link this away. Summon out your copy of Alamirage. Alamirage goes to graveyard. And then summon out your copy of Secure Gardener. Now, Invocation, banish these two from the graveyard, and then summon out your Purgatrio and go after your opponent. Proceed to go after your opponent with your copy of Purgatrio that we did drop that Invocation to activate. And the Invocation has the other ability that you can target a banished Alistair monster in your graveyard, or banished Alistair monster shuffle in the deck, and you add this card to your hand. Really cool effect. Add this back to hand, target the Alistair, shuffle it back into the deck so you can get another Alistair the Invoker play off later on, which is going to be super helpful if we do draw it next turn. So you have more plays to go off, and you end in this kind of board where you can attack your opponent, every single monster your opponent controls, and inflicts piercing damage, which is really, really, really cool. And that's a really good board. That's not terrible for drawing 3 Call by the Graves. If we do draw into our next hand, it's going to be a copy of Super Polymerization, which is not going to super help us, but you have the Call by the Grave just to go off if you need to. And you can also normal summon out your Trick Clown if you have to do that as well. So we did have multiple negates in our hand with the Call by the Grave, stopping our opponent's hand traps, but you did kind of run into a little bit of a problem where you bricked with the copies of Call by the Grave, which I do understand happens sometimes, but that is That was like drawing 5 pieces of Exodia. That was weird. All in the first turn. That was something. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and see what we can get for the next, and hopefully really good final test hand. So you have some really insane boards that you can actually crank out with this deck. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the final test hand. So for the final test hand, I know a lot of people side Super Poly, but I think it's kind of silly to side Super Poly in a Shaddoll deck. I feel like Super Poly is a main deck card in Shaddolls, because you can use your Shaddoll monster plus an opponent's light or dark monster, and then just get rid of anything. So we're going to draw into an Ash Blossom. We're going to draw into a Alistair, which is really good. A second Alistair. Don't give me 3 Alistairs, please. And a Nibiru. Okay, so if we're going first, drop the Nibiru on your opponent, and you've got a really good play right off the bat, because you're already going to set them back quite a few resources, and the Ash Blossom as well. So you have 2 pretty much negates right off the bat, or a disruption and a negate as well. So if we're going second now, we're going to go ahead and draw, and we're going to get the beast. So normal summon out your copy of Alistair, do the same exact thing. The Alistair's effect is going to trigger, excuse me, getting ahead of myself. Go ahead and add the invocation from deck to hand. Now, you can activate the copy of Alistair, send it to the graveyard, link it away, Alamirage, Secure Gardna. Okay? Now, once you've done that, this card cannot be used as a link material. So this card, that's something you have to keep in mind, is it cannot be used as a link material. But that's not that big of a deal, because we're not playing a Master Rule and that Master Rule anymore. That's fine. So, effect of the copy of Invocation. Since we are going second, this is totally fine. Activate the copy of Invocation. Banish these 2 from the graveyard. Special summon Purgatrio. Send this to the grave. Add it back to hand. Shuffle the Alistair into the deck somewhere. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. We're not going to go back into the deck, so I'm not going to shuffle it. And then you have another play for the next turn to normal summon the Alistair and go off again. And if they didn't get rid of the Nibiru, you have another play where you can just swing at your opponent. Or you can activate the copy of Invocation the next turn if they do get rid of the Nibiru. Or they get rid of the Secure Gardna, and then you've got another play. So you have pretty much an OTK just right here, just with what you've pulled off. So let's do one more and see what we can get. Let's get a really insane one, because that was a good one because you had the Nibiru, but let's go ahead and get a crazy good hand. I think I didn't get that copy of Alamirage out of the deck. I think I shuffled it into the deck. Let me make sure. Nope, I didn't. Nope, there it is, right there. There's my bunny. Let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand. So that was kind of a control board, a little bit more of a control board and less of a OTK board. So let's go ahead and see what we can get for our last one. Go ahead and cut that deck really quick and see what we can get. So we're going to get an El Shaddoll Fusion, Invocation, Ash Blossom, and another Ash Blossom. Now that is a brick. Draw for turn and get a damage juggle. That is a brick. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't cut the deck. Don't cut the deck. That was bad. Let's go ahead and do it again. Ash, Magical Meltdown, that's good. Beast, Alistair, and Invocation. That is the hand right there. Go ahead and drop the Meltdown. Meltdown is going to trigger. Your opponent might Ash it because they're going to try and get rid of the Alistair. Alistair searches, or Magical Meltdown searches Alistair. Alistair normal summons, searching Invocation. Once you get the Invocation in your hand, you're going to then drop the Ash Blossom, and you have 2 Invocations and 2 Alistairs that you have to play with. Link it away again. Summon out your copy of the Alamirage, Secretary Gardna, or Secure Gardna, excuse me. You can go Invocation again, and depending on what your opponent has in the graveyard, depends on what you go for. But for me, if I was just doing this, I'd probably go Purgatrio again. But if my opponent had a light monster in the graveyard, if I'm going first or second, it depends. If I'm going second, I'm going to summon out the Purgatrio. If I'm going first, I'm going to always summon out the copy of my Makaba. It just depends on which one you want to go for. So let's go ahead and try maybe one more. Let's just shuffle up and see what we can get, and see if we can get a Shaddoll play going on for this last test hand. We did quite a few in this one because this deck kind of moves very quickly to me, especially with the Secure Gardener and the Alamirage play, because you just basically play like 3 cards and get into your fusion play, which is really, really cool. So let's go ahead, and I know this deck inside out, which is why it's so easy to play for me. So, Shaddoll Fusion right there, bam. Shaddoll Falco, Call by the Grave, Squimata, and an Alistair. Oh, this is good. This is a really good hand. Okay, we're going second. Draw into a copy of El Shaddoll Fusion. This is pretty good. Go ahead and drop the copy of Shaddoll Fusion. They're going to activate something. Drop the copy of your Call by the Grave. Send from deck to graveyard our copies of Trick Clown. I'm going to send Trick Clown to the graveyard right here. And it's going to special summon itself, and I'm going to send a copy of Beast, which is going to get me an additional draw, which is going to help me out just that much more. So we're going to get our draw and get our Windy from our deck to our hand, and then we're going to normal summon our copy of Alistair, which is going to search us an invocation. And now we're going to link summon if we want to. Oh, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Put that back. Excuse me, put that back. This is still my hand. I didn't even summon Construct. Summon the Construct. Don't forget to summon your fusion monster off your fusion play. Construct effect is going to trigger sending a card from a deck to the graveyard, which I'm going to send my copy of the Incarnation from the deck to the graveyard. Now summon the copy of Alistair. Alistair is going to search our copy of Invocation, which is going to be right here. And then Alistair is going to get linked away, summoning out the Alamirage. Alamirage summons Secure Gardener. I always want to call it that. And then you're going to drop the Invocation. Now, at this point, you have a couple of different plays. Do you want to go Purgatrio, or do you want to go in for the other one? It just depends, because you have multiple plays. Or you want to go Caliga. It depends on what you want to go for. I would just go for Purgatrio if I'm going second. Drop these two. Summon out the Purgatrio right here. Shuffle this back into the deck. And we can make a Winda as well if we want to make Winda, but I have some really crazy plays that we're actually going to go into very quickly. So this is going to go to the graveyard or banish. And then now you see this board and it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. But you've kind of locked yourself in right here, so you can't link summon. But we can still fusion summon. So we're going to go ahead and drop the copy of El Shaddoll Fusion, sending our copy of the Windy and a copy of Construct to the graveyard. Now, the Construct is going to trigger... let me go ahead and put this on the field. The Construct is going to trigger, and the copy of Windy is going to trigger. So once these two go to the graveyard, we're going to trigger the Construct to add back our copy of Shaddoll Fusion, and we're going to trigger the Windy to add special summon a copy of our Ariel, because I have a really cool play I'm going to show you guys. Summon back the Ariel. The Ariel is then going to trigger. And we're going to summon out a copy of, since the Ariel's set, we can do something pretty cool. Yeah, we got a pretty cool play. We're going to use these two, banish them, and then we're going to trigger the effect of this, flipping this back up. The Shaddoll Incarnation can flip-flop them face up, face down. Flip it face up, special summon this back onto your side of the field. And then you've got a field that looks a little bit like this. Now, if you would have done it a little bit differently, instead of summoning the Purgatrio, and you would have sent this to the graveyard, you could have done a little bit differently, where you had a field that looked a little bit like this. Instead of summoning the Purgatrio, you would summon the Makaba, and you could have done a little bit differently, where you can actually go Access Code Talker as well, which I'm going to show you guys really quickly. Link these two away. Summon out your copy of your Cross Sheep here, and then link these two away, and summon out your copy of Access Code Talker here. Access Code Talker is going to target your copy of Cross Sheep, or your copy of, you could have also summoned, if you wanted to, your copy of Nightmare Phoenix, or Nightmare Unicorn. It doesn't matter, to give it an extra 1,000. It doesn't really matter, whichever one you want to go for. This card can banish a card, or banish cards from the graveyard that you want. You can get 3 pops out of it as well, if you want to go that route, and get 3 pops and a negate as well, which is really good to be able to do. So, also the Construct would trigger, and the copy of your Apokalon would trigger, and the Apokalon will let you add a Shaddoll from deck to hand, and then discard a Shaddoll as well, which you could do something like add the Beast, or no, you already trigger Beast. Add a copy of, you already triggered Windy, you already triggered Beast. Add Hedgehog, discard the Hedgehog, and then search a copy of Beast to set up for later, which is going to help out quite a lot. So that's what the board you'd end on. You have negates in hand, you have triggers in hand, and you have the access code talker popping, and you pretty much have a negate right there. So that's it for the test hands, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. That's pretty crazy, the test hands that you can actually pull off. This could be any other Link 4 that you wanted it to be, that you wanted to go into instead of the access code talker, but the access code talker works best to me, going for all those different plays and being able to just go crazy into combos like that. Like, this deck goes into so many different weird combos that you got to really think about it as you're going through them, because you can make a misstep and make a really weird looking board that doesn't look right. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can come part of the notification squad, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys, and don't forget to check out the Patreon. See you later, guys.